Hello, and I am utterly delighted to welcome Kristine Gardener to having a chat to me today. Kristine came on board as a practitioner for Metabolic Balance in 2019, so got some wonderful experience already. And hello, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me today, Terry.
So I am just wanting to hear, how have you found metabolic balance in your practice? Just what would you say?
Um, Metabolic balance, and I say this to practitioners and clients alike, that it has been transformational for my practice. When I first started practicing with metabolic balance, I would have called myself more of a health coach than a naturopath, even though I've been a naturopath for 25 years. I did a lot more coaching than naturopathy, I guess. And metabolic balance has brought me full circle around into naturopathy. At times at the start, it was kicking and screaming, but it's very much been an absolute pleasure to work with it. And honestly, it's been a game changer for me. I have found a system that works consistently
Yeah,
with every single client I've put through it, and I've never been able to say that before
yeah,
with anything I'd done as either a coach or a naturopath.
yeah. That's really cool to hear you say that. So, what would you? I mean, like, if you were to be just sort of trying to put it in a nutshell, what it is really about metabolic balance. So, if you know, sort of that describing to somebody who doesn't know what it is, what would you say?
Yeah. So metabolic balance is, and I always struggle with this a little bit because I
Mm,
want to say it's personalized nutrition, but it's so much
mhm,
more than just personalized nutrition. So, I we know that at its heart it's an anti-inflammatory program, but when I'm talking to clients about it, I I jokingly say it's like a snake oil from an old western. It does something for everyone because it is an anti-inflammatory program. It will work across your hormones. It'll work across any inflammatory conditions you've got. It will work across any gut disorders. It'll work across all of those things that people don't think is inflammatory. So for me, metabolic balance is like a magic snake oil in that I can confidently say to any client who picks up the phone to talk to me that if it's something that is going on in your body that isn't based on a structural deficit, it's going to help you.
yeah.
And that to me is phenomenal. Like there's just nothing. So it's so much more than personalized
Mm,
nutrition, but at its heart, we know that's what it is because it's based on their blood chemistry, their demographics, their food preferences, their medical history, their medications, all of those things that so many other programs don't take into
mm,
consideration. But the results it gets are so consistently excellent in my practice
mhm.
that I've really steered away as a naturopath and a health coach from working with other modalities. I was talking with somebody today and saying, I don't do a lot of hair tissue analysis or,
Mm,
food sensitivity testing or any of that. I can do it, but why would I? Because at the end of the day, it's giving me information, but it's not creating a solution. And metabolic balance is the program in my 25 years as a naturopath that has found the answer. Like it really is that good.
yeah, I love the use giving the solution. I like often say
Mm,
metabolic balance. It gives people the exact what they need to do, so we don't have to sort of waste time or sort of try and work anything further out. You just this is what you now need to do, and then as soon as people start
yeah.
doing it, we start seeing the body readjusting itself.
And the body is so forgiving,
Yes.
and that's I've always known that, but seeing it in practice with metabolic balance, like, all the body wants is for you to give it a break so it can actually heal itself, and
Yeah.
because metabolic balance takes you on that
Mm,
journey of,
mm.
first getting rid of some of that layer of toxicity, but also then through healing from the gut out, the body, you can almost feel its sigh of,
Yeah.
a sigh of relief because
Yeah.
it's getting the chance
Yeah.
to actually regenerate and rejuvenate.
Yeah, it's interesting because I also see what you mean when you say that sigh of relief. But it's I often think that as soon as the body is actually given an opportunity, it seizes it straight away. Which is why
Yes.
when people do really start to eat the right foods for their bodies, it's almost like it's like straight away the body's going, right, got some food, we've got some nutrients that I can really work with here, let me start the healing journey that I need to go on.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a I mean, it
Would you?
sounds cliched, but it's such a
Yeah,
gift that we give the body when we do that really targeted, personalized nutrition so that it's infinitely wise. It can do what it needs to
yeah,
do when we're not putting
yeah,
the rubbish in on top of everything else
yeah,
that's going on in there already. Mm.
yeah. Yeah. So you have a particular niche to support women who are going through that menopausal transition. Can you sort of
Mhm.
share how you see, how you work with metabolic balance? Because often people, like women, they can feel that helplessness with when they are having that menopause transition.
And yeah, absolutely happy to. And I think it's helplessness, but it's also acceptance. Acceptance that menopause does come with hot flushes. Menopause does come with abdominal weight gain. It does come with insomnia. It does come with
Mm.
mood swings, and it doesn't like it shouldn't. It's
Yes.
the and I know like it doesn't have to be that way. It's
No.
inflammatory. Those are the reasons why those things are happening, and I often say to my clients when they first are deciding whether to do metabolic balance or not, you have to make a leap of faith because this is so much better than anything else you've done. It'll be hard for you to believe that you can get results from it, but lean on me until you do because
Yeah.
I've seen it work hundreds of times and it works. And for menopausal women, that acceptance and that helplessness is very real. Most of my clients are very intelligent, successful women who just don't understand. They're healthy, they do most of the things right, and they just don't understand
Mm.
why,
Yeah.
when they're doing everything seemingly correct, that nothing's working. And the biggest thing for menopausal women is the things that used to work no longer do. And
Mm.
that's when metabolic balance can really kick in and give them that efficacy and that self-confidence and that belief that they really can change this. And when I work with menopausal women, I mean, menopause is such a range, right?
Yes.
Because I can work with menopausal women in their early 30s, and people will say, "Well, they're not menopausal." Well, no, they're premenopausal, but we can set up their hormones now
Mm.
and their body's health now, so that when they do in 10 years or 15 years or whenever really start hitting that perimenopausal age,
Mm.
it's a breeze, it's
Mm.
fine, and likewise at the other end of the spectrum, if they're postmenopausal, I've had women in their 70s do this program and reverse really
Mm.
strong,
Mm.
chronic conditions in their body and feel and act healthier than they did 20, 30 years ago. So
Mm.
I I love it. I am a menopausal woman, so it's why I work a lot with
Mhm.
menopausal women, but again, the results they get are things beyond what they actually expect, and they've given up hope. And
Mm.
it comes back to what you said about helplessness.
Yeah.
They've given up that hope, and just a week or two into the program, they're disbelieving that they have no more cravings, that the belly fat is going, that they're starting to sleep better, their moods are better,
Yeah.
all of those things kick in so quickly with metabolic balance as well.
Yeah. I think it's interesting when we look at the idea of this acceptance that because
Mhm.
from my point of view, I believe that as a society, we're almost dictated to every day that this imbalance, this feeling slightly shitty, or with menopause, oh, that's totally normal. All menopausal women put on weight. Therefore, you need to accept that this is the case and keep going. It's almost like a form of hypnosis that seems to happen. We're
Yeah,
constantly told. And it's like, well,
it
really? It doesn't have to be that way. It's not actually
it
true.
doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it's not, and I mean, that's we're talking menopause, but that's the case for it's the case for men as well, but if we're talking women in
Yeah.
particular, any woman of reproductive age, like that's,
Mm.
do we just accept that we have
Mhm.
premenstrual symptoms? Do we just accept that we
Mhm.
get pain from
Yeah.
endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome? And do we accept that that we can't do
Mhm.
anything about infertility?
Yeah.
Why should we?
No.
We don't have to.
No.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. And you can I often say the body wants to be well. And if you just give it the
Yeah.
opportunity, it will seize it.
Mm.
and get into
Yeah.
balance. And it doesn't have to be this idea that just as well, oh, my mom had this, so I have it. Well, not
Mhm.
necessarily. It doesn't have to be the case.
No.
It really can be different.
No, and it's interesting you say that because I think one of the things that I've always believed in, nurture being stronger than nature, and we're dealt our genetic cards, right?
Yes.
But what we do with those is our
Yeah.
choice. And I mean, I can use my example of my sister and I. Firstly, our balance plans were completely different to one
Yeah.
another. But also, her journey through menopause was completely different because she hadn't done metabolic balance prior to going through it. She got her first menopausal symptoms at 50. She just turned 60. She's still experiencing them because even though she started metabolic balance, she decided it was too hard. And it's funny,
Hmm.
you recently said on a call I was on with you, is it hard to change your diet, or is it hard to accept the symptoms that you're
Yeah.
experiencing on
Choose
a
your heart.
day-to-day
You've got to
basis?
choose your heart.
Choose your diet.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
I,
And
yeah.
that blows me
Mm,
away.
yeah.
Um, and my journey as a menopausal woman, I also entered perimenopause when I was 50, before I came to metabolic balance.
Hmm.
And I had not really had many symptoms because I was healthier
Mm.
anyway, but healthier than my sister anyway. But she's going to kill me if she watches this, by the way. But but, but my journey through menopause was completely different. And again,
Mm,
nurture versus
mm,
nature. But I could tell you on one hand the number of times I've had a menopausal
mm,
menopausal symptom,
mm,
and that's usually after a big night on
mm.
red wine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whether it's red wine or menopause, you choose. But
Yeah.
the difference that this can make to a
Mm,
menopausal woman's journey from the 30s right through to
mm.
postmenopausal is magnificent.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the other thing that I just probably would touch on here is when we talk about things being hard, because I
Mm,
know lifestyle change or just, slightly changing what you're eating. It's interesting how it is perceived as challenging when I think,
mm,
when you've worked with people in the way that we've worked with them and seen how health transforms and how their whole potential changes, and
mm.
then you know that really all we're doing is, okay, we're eating whole fresh food, we're eating it 3 times a day, we're cooking some food that is not hard meals to cook. You're talking maybe 10 minutes preparation sometimes, or even
Yep.
less. They're just fresh foods. And you're
Mm,
drinking the right amount of water and you're not snacking. That's probably, yes, we're not grazing and we're not snacking through the day. We're getting on with other stuff. I often am
mm.
I'm sometimes at a loss to see why it's hard in many ways when you see the
Yeah.
benefits of the health and what you can achieve from that. What would
Mm.
you say with that?
I agree, and there's a few things that came to mind when you were talking
Mm,
there, Terry, and one of the things is, and I will say to my new clients, you might feel uncomfortable at the start of this program. You might not,
mm,
but you might feel uncomfortable because change always challenges our
mm,
brain. We've got to think about things before we become habitual
yeah.
at doing them. So that's going to be the challenge. The food that you eat on a metabolic balance program is chemically matched to exactly what you need. So cravings disappear incredibly
Hmm.
quickly. And people
Yeah.
don't believe, oh, I'm addicted to chocolate, they say. Well, guess what? You won't be after the first few days on the program, usually, if you need it at all,
Yeah.
because the food you're eating is chemically designed to meet your body's
Needs.
needs.
Yeah.
So it might be uncomfortable at the start, but is it hard?
Yeah.
No, that's in your brain, and
Hmm.
that won't last very long at all. So
Yeah.
while I acknowledge that it can be uncomfortable, I really don't think it's hard, and if they do find it uncomfortable, it's not for very long
Yeah.
on this program.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
one of the feedback I often have, yeah, you sort of the first few days, and we're talking days here, first few days,
Yeah.
you're thinking, okay, I've got this to remember and I've got to do this and I've got to,
Mhm.
but then after like day 3, 4, you're like going, actually, this is kind of easy, which it really is, isn't it? It's like it's all in your
It really
plan. It's
is.
all in your plan. You know what you're doing, and you're just like,
Yes.
okay,
That's
this it takes away a lot of that sort of food noise in many ways. Or should I be doing this, and should I be eating that? And when everything is
so
just
true.
calms down, so that you don't have to even
It,
try and make decisions for yourself in that kind of way. You just
yeah.
know this is what my body needs.
And it's a really, really valid point, and I often talk to my clients about that because I'm really left brain. I'm very analytical. I'm, a little bit OCD, and I like structure. And a lot of my clients are like that as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that it allows them to do is cut out that noise because, as you touched on before, we accept all of this because we're bombarded with it on a daily
Mm,
basis, but it's just noise
yeah.
at the end of the day. And I say to my clients, it's kind of like purple hair. If you go and dye your hair purple, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but at the end of the day, it's just noise. It's what you decide to do
Mm,
with,
mm,
your purple hair that
yeah.
matters. And this is the same that you do this. You don't have to listen to any of that. And the real gift that it gives you is you don't have to listen to that for the rest of your life
Yeah.
because these foods will work for you for, like for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's it. You can come, you can go. I say to my clients, you can go and eat pasta in Italy for 3 months, and if you come back feeling a bit, overwhelmed and a bit overweight, then great, you've got your foods there. You don't have to
Mm,
buy into
no.
anything else that's out there. So it's actually structured. It's really
Yeah.
structured. It's really easy. Takes the guesswork. Like all of the
Mm,
what should I eat? How much should I eat? When should I eat?
mm,
You know, why am I starting to feel inflamed? All gone,
yeah.
just gone.
It's that, I mean, you touched on it beautifully there, in that the plan is something that you can um, just get out whenever you need. So we are not ever saying
Yeah,
that we stick to a food list for the rest of our life. I mean, there's no way. That's not what health and
no,
good quality of life is. But it is about
no, but it's
recognizing
boring.
that's not going to work. But what you want to do is
No,
actually be able to really go with the flow of life. So when you've got celebrations or you've got holidays, you can start to evaluate, well, what are you going to do at that time? And then you're
mhm,
going to, when you need to reset and refocus, do a spring clean. In essence, it's like, I often think
yeah,
it's a bit like, do a
yeah,
little spring clean of your health in your body. Well, let's do 2 weeks of your MB
yeah,
plan again to reset, and then we're good to go
yes,
again.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, and I will always preface working with someone by because people often, this, people will often say, "Well, how long do I have to stick to it
Yes.
for?" And we know that in metabolic balance, you have 2 weeks at the start
Mm-hmm.
that we ask you to stick to it strictly. 2 weeks. It's not a
Mm.
lifetime, it's 2
Yeah.
weeks. Stick to it strictly because if you do that, and sure, people will make mistakes, but if you attempt
Mm-hmm.
100% compliance, your results are gonna go through the
Mm.
roof. And the reality is we can deal with anything that somebody throws at us after 2 weeks, but if we've got those 2 weeks of commitment from them,
Yeah.
like I've had people get married on day 15 of the program or go overseas on day 15,
Yeah.
we can deal with that because life has to
Yeah.
happen, but, so much good stuff
Mm.
changes in those first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If they can give us that period, then the program has a really great chance to get, some of those markers sorted out in the body and balances
Yeah.
happening that aren't
Yeah.
there at the moment. Mm.
Have you got some favorite clients that just sort of pop into your head that you could maybe share a story or two?
Yeah, yeah, no. So I have a client who I probably finished working with 6 to 12 months ago, I
Mm.
guess. And she came to me, like many of my clients do, through word of mouth, because they see their friends, their family,
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
colleagues get great results. And she came to me through a colleague, and she is a menopausal woman, quite healthy. And when she first came to me, I captured some of the language that she used, and the things that she said were words like, what I used to do no longer works, but the ones that really um, struck me were with she said things like, "I don't like myself anymore,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna go out anymore,
Mm.
because I don't like this body that
Mm.
I'm in, and I'm ashamed
Yeah.
that, I look this way," and it was really
Mm. Yeah.
heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah.
She did her program with me, and, I asked her for her feedback at the end of it, And the difference was magnificent. Like, not only had she lost unwanted weight, but she'd also, her joint pain had disappeared, her moods had improved, her capacity, and again, that's a sideline, but the capacity of the brain improved so much
Yeah.
on this program. All of those things happened, but she said, I can wear clothes that I haven't been able to wear for ages, like that I haven't worn for
Mm.
decades, let alone months. And I actually love going out now, and I love the compliments that I'm receiving. So, we can talk about all of the physiological changes that happen with
Mm.
metabolic balance, which are absolutely remarkable.
Mm.
But when it comes to self-confidence for menopausal women,
Mm.
it's massive. And so that was probably one of the most rewarding
Mm.
conversations I've had. And it's not isolated, it's
Yeah.
indicative of the kind of conversation I have with people. So that was a really lovely one.
Yeah.
Another one which comes to mind, which isn't a menopausal woman, but it was actually somebody with diagnosed ADHD. And I just thought of it while I was talking about brain
Mm.
chemistry there. And she came to me probably in her mid-30s, and she said, she was medicated, she was having trouble focusing at work, she had a young family,
Mm.
and she phoned me outside of an appointment about, I think it was about 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks into her
Mm.
program. She phoned me and she said, "I don't know what's going on, but I can cope." They were her words. "I don't know what's going on, but I can cope." And when we unpacked it, she was coping better during the day. She was coping better. She had more energy. She was
Yeah.
sleeping better. She was waking up naturally. All of those things. And though she will always have
Mm.
ADHD, the symptoms were so less impactful for her. And that again was one of my
Mm.
most rewarding experiences,
Yeah.
because it's a bit like menopause. People with neurodiversity, and aren't we all, but
Yeah.
people with diagnoses of neurodiversity, or on the spectrum, or whatever it happens to be, and particularly if they're medicated, that again is, I think, a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness for them, because
Yeah.
that's their course, right? That's where we tell them to go as a society: go get tested, get medicated, and live with
Mm.
it.
Mm.
Um, but she
Yeah.
chose
It's
this, and
actually all.
she found a
Yeah.
better outcome.
Yeah. I actually almost see that people are almost told there is something wrong with them. So even if you took like menopause or ADHD, either one of those, it's like you're saying that that person has got something wrong, and that they need to
Yeah.
um
Mm.
they need to almost sort of, they they should put up with it, for one thing, and that
Yes.
they can't reach their full potential. And that's often what I think,
No.
when you give anybody the right food to fuel themselves,
Mm.
it's like they can come back to their true potential. Because, if you took the
Yes.
ADHD diagnosis, it's still an amazing person that's in front of you, that they just have a slightly quirky or different way of viewing the world. But if you allow them to
Mhm.
actually travel through the world in a balanced place, they can really have a great life and achieve all of their own passions and what they want to achieve. I mean, that's how I look at it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100% agree, and I think my clients would agree with
Mm.
you as well, those who are, so-called neurodiverse,
Yes.
and again, I keep doing this because
Yeah.
really?
Yes.
But yeah, those who have that diagnosis, they 100% agree with you, and in fact, I'm still working with her, a client who has
Yeah.
just been, while we've been working together, been diagnosed with
Yeah.
ADHD, but her her capacity has improved exponentially
Mm.
through nutrition. And
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, but I think
Yeah.
she's about 5, 6 weeks
Yeah.
into the program.
Because it's not about fixing anything. It's actually about bringing out the real potential and the real balance that means everything is so much easier. And that's coming almost back to the beginning of where we're saying, well, what's hard?
Mm,
The hardness is
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
feel that place of imbalance, when actually you just, you learn what you can do to nourish yourself. And once you've learned it as
mm,
well, you're now good to go. This is almost the value that
yeah.
keeps on coming back.
It does,
Yeah.
and so much. I talk a lot with psychologists and counselors, and about that gut brain axis
Mm,
as well. And
mm,
we all agree, yes, it's really important what's
mm,
going on in the mind, but we've got to heal from the gut
mm.
out if we're going to
Yeah.
get the best capacity
Yeah.
out of the brain, as with any organ in our body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to kind of catch back a little bit on the value. So one of the things that
Mm,
I think it's worth really bringing up is that sometimes people
mm,
can say that doing the metabolic balance program with a practitioner is expensive.
mm.
What would you say to that? Because let's just bring that out here. What would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I could spend an hour talking to you about this, but I'll try and keep it concise.
Yeah.
So firstly, how many things have they tried before and how much has that cost them?
Hmm.
How many different dress sizes have they bought because they haven't been able to manage that? How many, different Thermomixes or cookbooks or whatevers have they bought to try and manage their diet?
Hmm. Hmm.
How many practitioners that they've been to? How many supplements have they had? How many
Yeah.
herbs? How many whatevers have they had?
Hmm.
How much money are they spending on food, either healthy food because they've
Hmm.
bought into
Hmm.
some whatever is out there, or unhealthy food because their efficacy is through the floor and they've given up, and they're just eating rubbish all the time. So that's the first cost, is you're probably spending more than what this program costs just on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis anyway.
Yeah.
You're probably going to the chiropractor or the physio or the osteo because your bones and your joints and everything hurts, which is
Hmm.
part of the problem, of which metabolic balance is part of the solution. But in
Hmm.
addition to that, this this program is a one-off payment. You do it once, you've got it for the rest of your life. Like,
Yeah.
you no longer have to buy the junk, you no longer
Yeah.
have to see, and I don't want to put allied health practitioners out of the out
Yeah.
of their job, but they wanna heal people too.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to maintain it. You don't like, there's so much expense that people accept on a day-to-day
Hmm.
basis and maybe not see it as, wow, it costs this much, which we do, a one time or a two time,
Hmm.
whatever, people decide to do. But it is an investment in your health. And I know that sounds cliched, but it's an investment in your life. And if you do that once, you're done.
Yeah.
You don't have to
You've got the
do
knowledge.
any of those other things.
It is actually like
Right.
it's like going to school,
Oh,
learning what you need to do, and then you know what you need to do, and then you have this full choice.
exactly.
And yeah, being ill
It's
is
yeah,
infinitely tenfold the times more expensive than being
yeah,
well, and then what you can achieve
yes,
from a place of wellness. Yeah, it's
yes.
yeah, I
Yeah, and I just thought of that, and I always get it wrong, that quote, "You can teach a man to" what is it? "You can give a man a fish, or you can teach him how to fish." That's
yes,
kind of what this
it
is. We can
is.
keep
Yeah.
sending them off for more cookbooks and more treatments and
Yeah,
all the
or more
rest, or we can just
testing.
teach them how to
You can do endless testing. You can
more
do
more
endless,
testing. I didn't even talk about that.
yeah, endless supplement ideas. Oh my goodness, it's
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of the time when I hear that metabolic balance is kind of compared to, I don't know, the meal replacement stuff or that kind of stuff. When you add that
Mhm.
up, that's thousands and thousands of dollars
So
over the years,
mm.
and you don't get anywhere. As
Mhm.
soon as you've drunk that meal replacement, okay, that's your money gone, disappeared. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah. So I just think that's a really important point to consider. Yeah,
It is, and on that point, the minute they stop most of these things, then not only do they regain all the symptoms or the
yeah.
weight
It
or whatever it
stops
was,
the
but usually
yeah
more. Yeah, the benefit
yeah
stops. So whereas metabolic balance doesn't
no.
stop. It's there for
It's like
life, and it's
you
not.
put the
It's not.
you reset the body, and then the body kind of just starts working, and then it carries on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. So it is. I equate it to, it's a really bad analogy, and I'm not mechanical at all, but when I'm trying to describe what metabolic balance does to prospective clients, I equate it to the engine of a car. Like,
yes.
you can put, rubbish petrol in a car and you can not do an oil change and it's going to get sluggish. That's what
Mm,
happens in our
mm,
bodies over years. And then if you clean it out, which is what metabolic balance does, it can put up with bad petrol every now and then. And maybe you don't do the oil change right on time, but it's what if you put good
Yeah.
petrol in most of the time, which is what metabolic
Mm,
balance
mm,
advocates, it'll keep running for a
yeah.
very, very long
Yeah.
time.
And
Mm.
you properly now do the service too of your body, basically, isn't it? It's like where you're taking that
Exactly.
car analogy a little bit further. Maybe once a year or
That's
once
true.
every 18 months, you do a little bit of a 2-week reset. Hey,
Yes.
woo, we're ready to
Yeah,
go again. And you don't pay for that reset, you
exactly.
just
Yeah.
do it. And it's
Yep,
awesome.
you've got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like you and I could talk about this forever,
I know we probably should finish there, but yeah, I love talking to you, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and I think we
Paul.
should do this again. Let's have another chat. I will maybe,
I think we
yeah, we
should. This
can,
has
we,
been
yeah,
amazing. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah. Okay, awesome.